give him space. This yours?
Good.
I thought it was Paul, that's why I didn't move it. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. You can sit there.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm straight. Trust me. It is. All right. You can pull these joints up.
No, you can wait.
Man, they're changing their council seats around. Like, yo, what y'all doing?
You want to be in the middle, right? You good?
You can't even move. Oh, you mean like that?
When they walked in,
You want to sit here? Look at you.
We'll figure it out later.
Okay, I got 2 words. Good.
I talked to all of them.
Just call us to order. What? Yeah. All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Chester Zoning Hearing Board. Before we begin with anything substantive related to today's hearing, the board will be reorganizing this morning, as is customary at our first meeting of the year. So at this time, I'll take nominations for Chair of the Zoning Hearing Board.
I nominate Tiffany Buford as the chair for the zoning board for Chester.
Okay, we have a nomination. Is there a second? Second. Nomination and a second. All those in favor of Ms. Buford serving as the chair?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, congratulations. We have our newly elected chair. Then we'll elect a vice chair as well. Can I have nominations for vice chair of the Zoning Hearing Board?
I elect Nelson.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. All right, we have a vice chair as well. We'll move into the hearings now. Just as a word of advice for those who are not here as applicants or applicants' witnesses, there are 2 ways to participate in this morning's hearings. The first is public comment. At the end of each application, we'll provide an opportunity for anybody who would like to offer a statement in opposition or in support of the application to do so. I will call on public comment. You will come forward, we'll swear you in, and then you can make your statements. It is not a time for questions, just a time for statements, your opinion, or anything you'd like to offer the board on that application. If you feel that you have a particular interest in in an application, primarily by some type of interest in a property in close proximity to the property that is the subject of the application, you can request party status. Party status will allow you to ask questions of the applicant and their witnesses, present testimony and evidence of your own, receive a copy of the board's written decision, and if you disagree with the board's decision, take an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. I will ask for those interested in party status at the beginning of each application, and we'll make a determination as to whether you're eligible. Being said, we'll start with application number 8-24, the application of West 3rd Street Real Estate LLC for the property at 2901 and 2903 West 3rd Street, parcel ID numbers 491100341100 and 491100342000 in the LIC Light Industrial Commercial District, requesting the following: variance from section 1327.01A to permit multifamily apartment dwellings, variance from section 1357.01A to permit 6 off-street parking spaces where 13 spaces are required, variance from section 1357.01A to permit 0 off-street parking spaces for proposed commercial uses, variance from section 1357.03C to permit an aisle width for 2-way traffic in an off-street parking area of 22 feet where a minimum of 24 feet is required, and variance from section 1357.04A to permit no off-street loading facility for proposed commercial uses. Is the applicant present?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Scott. Before you begin, the board will mark the following exhibits. The zoning application packet will be ZHB 1, ZHB 2 will be the proof of publication, ZHB 3 will be the posting affidavit, and ZHB 4 will be the affidavit of mailing. Is there anyone here who's requesting party status for this application? Seeing none, Mr. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Robert W. Scott. I am the attorney for the applicant. My attorney ID number is 59329. I have with me one witness, Mario Ravello, who I will be asked to be sworn in momentarily. Logistically, would you like us both at the podium? Do you have any particular conventions as to where we should stand?
As long as you both have a microphone,
Okay,
it's up to you.
great. And is it okay if I put this up and block your views? Is that?
And as long as the court reporter can hear you. I'll do that second caveat.
And I'm going to hand out exhibit packets, and then we'll get rolling. Ugh.
Might help. Thank you.
You?
You sure?
Thank you.
This isn't even a real pen. So, thanks.
All right, well, thank you and good morning. As I said, my name is Robert W. Scott. This is an application for two adjoining properties that are located at 2901 and 2903 West 3rd Street. These properties were previously occupied and known as Bill's Tavern. There's still a big Bill's Tavern sign hanging on the property. And the remaining portions of the property consisted of two residential units. The new owner of the properties is seeking approval to construct a rear addition to 2903 West 3rd Street, extend the second floor of 2901 West Street, and then collectively construct a third floor on top of both of those additions. The resulting three-story building would then be used to have an updated commercial unit on the first floor and a total of 8 apartment units on the second and third floors. First, second, and third floors. There will also be a parking lot with 6 parking spaces. The building is located in the LIC district. Since you have already listed the zoning relief we need, I'll just call my first, my first witness. Would you please introduce yourself?
My name's Mario Ravello. I'm the sole member of West 3rd Real Estate LLC, and we purchased the property.
Mr. Ravello, just
Yes.
a second. If you can spell your last name for the court reporter,
Sure,
and then they'll swear you in.
It's R-I-V as in Victor, E-L-L-O.
Mr. Ravello, are you the, please describe what your connection is to this
So
property.
I'm the sole member of West 3rd Real Estate LLC. West 3rd Real Estate LLC acquired 2901 and 2903 West 3rd together on July 24th, 2024.
They were sold as a package, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
It's a single purchase.
And could I draw your attention to Exhibit A? Would you please describe what that is?
That's the deed.
By which you purchased the properties? By which your LLC purchased the properties?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Where is this property, where are these two properties located?
So the property fronts on West 3rd Street, adjacent Thurlow Street and Mary Street.
And how big is the lot?
The lot is a little less than 4,800 square feet, which is approximately 0.11 acres.
And that's the combined area, is that correct?
Correct.
Would you please look at Exhibit B? Is this a photograph, or these are a series of photographs of the existing buildings on the property?
Correct.
Okay. And what is currently located on the property?
So right now, currently, if you look at 2901 and 2903 West Third, 2901, the first floor consists of Bill's Tavern. And a portion of Bill's Tavern infringes on 2903 West Third. The remaining of the composition of the building consists of 2 residential units. So
So,
2901 is a residential unit on the second floor, a detached garage, and Bill's Tavern on the first floor. 2903 has a portion of Bill's Tavern, a residential unit on the second floor, and a portion of that residential on the first floor, and a vacant lot in the rear.
so in total, you're looking at the current conditions, there's 1 commercial space, which is Bill's Tavern,
Correct.
and there are 2 residential apartment units,
Correct, yes.
and a 2-car garage.
Yep.
The commercial unit, Bill's Tavern, it has breached the wall between the 2 properties, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, if you look at the property at 2901, it occupies the whole entire first floor of 2901, but also it occupies a portion of 2903. So a prior owner, probably decades ago, renovated the interior of that space, and what carries over into 2903 are the restrooms and a portion of the pool room relative to Bill's Tavern.
So this breaching of the wall, this is a nonconformity that existed long before you purchased it?
Correct.
Do you plan to consolidate the 2 lots?
Yes, we plan to consolidate it, but contingent on approval of the requested variances.
So this will be treated as 1 property if your project moves forward?
Correct, yes.
And what district, zoning district is this located in?
Light industrial commercial?
Okay, are apartments permitted in the light industrial commercial district?
No.
Okay. I'm now gonna ask you to look at Exhibit C. And Exhibit C is what is depicted on the easel, as well as in the packet. Does this plan, first of all, on the left side of that exhibit, it's labeled existing site plan. Does that accurately reflect the existing footprint of the buildings?
Yes.
Okay, and on the right side, where it says proposed site plan, that depicts the work you're proposing to do?
Correct.
Okay. And could you walk us through it a little bit more? You're going to be constructing, and feel free to walk over and point if you
Sure.
don't mind.
So, first and foremost, this is 2903 West Third. The goal of this is to extend out the ground floor and then the second floor above that. It's also to extend 2901 second floor out to the existing first floor footprint. So we would not be extending that footprint. And then last but not least, collectively, building a 3rd floor addition on top of this. So in a sense, we would aesthetically square off the building, so it would look like a box.
So you would be, your resulting 3-story building would have on the ground floor, how many units?
So on the ground floor, we would have 1 small commercial unit and 2 2-bedroom residential units. The second floor would be 2 2-bedroom residential units and 1 3-bedroom. And the third floor would be 2 2-bedroom and 1 3-bedroom.
There's an existing garage on 2901.
Yes, and we would demolish the existing 2-car garage, which is not being used for cars.
And you would instead construct a parking lot, is that correct?
We would replace the demolition of the 2 garages, we would replace them with 6 all-street parking spots.
Will there be an increase in the building cover?
There'll be about a 2% increase in building cover from 54 to 56%, although the maximum building coverage for the LIC district is 70%, so we'll still be well below the threshold.
Great. Could I draw your attention to Exhibit D in the packet? There is a drawing, and, let's flip that over, thank you. there's a drawing there labeled front elevation. Would you just point is that a rendering of what the property will look like?
That is the proposed front elevation.
And that's on, looking from 3rd Street at the front of the property. And at the bottom of that exhibit, there's a label of streetscape. Can you point out where the property is in that streetscape? And then would you kind of indicate the other properties on the block?
This is the remaining property on the block.
Okay. Is that height consistent with the character of the other buildings on the block?
It is.
Okay. And now I'll draw your attention to Exhibit E. Would you please describe, this is a floor plan. And is this, that's not, actually, do have it up here, please. And does this plan accurately depict what it is you propose to do on each of the 3 floors?
Yes.
Okay. And it's showing the layout of 8 apartment units.
Correct.
Will all of those apartment units comply with the city's requirements as to the minimum area?
Yes, correct.
What is the minimum area? of the
So the minimum area is 500 square feet. Each unit will be no less than 640 square feet, extending up to 800 square feet. What we have found is 500 square feet, which is a minimum, is just too small. So most of our units fall into that 600 to 750 square foot. Some go above the 700 square foot threshold, but we feel the highest and best use of that space for the occupant is in that range.
So, and does your proposed building addition, does it require any zoning relief as to bulk and area requirements? In other words, is it compliant as to height and as to building cover and as to impervious cover?
Yes, the maximum height requirement is 65 feet and 5 stories. Following us adding a 3rd floor, we'll be at 3 stories and 34 feet. So we'll still be well below the maximum limit.
And how many off-street parking spaces will you provide?
6.
And what does the ordinance require?
13?
Were there any off-street parking spaces provided for the Bill's Tavern use of this property?
There were none.
There were 2 garage spaces?
Correct.
They were presumably for tenants rather than for the business users?
Yes, correct.
And were they in fact used for parking to your knowledge?
No.
They're filled with storage, somebody's used them as
Stuff.
storage? So we would argue that this lack of parking for the commercial use unit is a grandfathered condition, and that no off-street parking would be required for that commercial unit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. We do need zoning relief as to the parking aisle width. The zoning ordinance requires a parking aisle width of 24 feet, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is your plan proposing?
We're proposing a 20 feet
And
with the 22-foot curb cut out.
Okay, and why do you feel that that is sufficient?
Because we're providing only 6 off-street parking spaces, and we think that 20 feet will suffice.
And do the dimensions of the parking spaces themselves comply with the zoning code?
Yes, correct.
And they are,
18 feet long, 9 feet wide.
so let's talk about the loading dock, for which we need zoning relief. Is there a loading dock for the existing commercial unit of this building?
There is none.
The zoning code does require that commercial use have a loading dock, but that is not in existence currently, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other, in this neighborhood, there's some other corner commercial uses. Do any of those have loading docks?
No.
Will the apartment units need a loading dock for any reason?
No.
Okay. Why do you think the board should approve these variance requests?
So based on the character of the block, although the properties are in the LIC district, they're located primarily residences on that block. So if you look at the block, it's predominantly residences. There's no commercial, retail, service use. The majority of that south side consists of multifamily. Proposed use of the 8 multifamily uses will be far more consistent with the character of the block.
And wouldn't actually putting an industrial use on this block be more detrimental to the character of the neighborhood than what?
Yes, we believe so,
Proposing?
yes.
And you touched on this earlier, but on this block of Third Street, all the properties on the side of the street that your property is on, are any of them industrial uses?
No.
Are they all residential uses?
Yes,
And are most of them apartments?
yes, correct.
Why should the parking and loading dock variances be granted?
So although the zoning code requires 13 off-street parking, we're proposing to put back 6 off-street parking, which will be 4 more than what's available now, even though what's available now isn't even used for parking. So we're providing 6 off-street parking spaces. We can conceivably, in my opinion, probably have in excess of 20 on-street parking spaces. And also, the Highland train station is about 0.2 miles from that, so it's kind of walking distance to the train station.
And isn't it true that the prior use of this, which was a tavern, isn't it conceivable, and isn't it probably the case, that the customer, a tavern could draw far more demands for parking than would apartment uses?
Correct. Bill's Tavern, as it was in previous operation, did not have any off-street parking. And we think that probably drove more traffic to Bill's Tavern.
And couldn't permitted industrial uses similarly draw far more traffic and parking needs than would a set number of apartments?
Correct.
Okay, I want to refer, obviously you've hit these points. There is, so let's skip down to this question here about hardship. What is the hardship for this property that makes application of the strict requirements of the zoning ordinance unreasonable?
So the zoning ordinance will require that the property be used for light industrial uses only.
And the existing use of the property already does not comply with that, is that correct?
Correct.
In that it has apartment units.
Correct. It has 2 apartments on the 2nd floor of each unit.
And the neighborhood is,
Predominantly residential.
okay. Did you create this hardship?
No, we purchased it with the existing building, with its nonconformities as to use, parking ratios, internal connection of ground floor space, and lack of loading area. We did not create the condition.
Okay. And similarly, the lack of a parking, the loading dock, not something you created,
No.
and the lack of parking for the commercial use was in existence when you bought it.
Correct.
Is this the minimum variance? Are you seeking the minimum variance to make this property
We are
usable?
seeking the minimum variance to allow apartments on the property that already has apartments on the block. It's primarily residential, in minor relief as to the parking loading area.
Well, the building itself, the Vulcan area of this building is entirely compliant. Is that
Correct.
It's not, you're not going too high, you're not putting more cover on the property than you're permitted. Are you providing as many off-street parking spaces as the property permits?
Yes.
And the units you are building, they're all, they comply with the city's requirements as to apartments and the size and minimum area?
Minimum area is 500 square feet. Our units will be about 643 square feet, up to about 800 square feet. So it's ample space within each unit.
And again, I'm just going to kind of reemphasize, this LIC district doesn't permit multifamily dwellings, but this property has them. Is that correct?
Correct. If you walk down the street, you'll notice that the majority of the buildings in the area are residential units.
There is one commercial use across the street from you. It has a sign that says Cotton Club. Is that in business to your knowledge?
I don't think it is.
But apart from that, this entire block is residential.
Yes.
Do you regard the variance for a 20-foot wide access lane into the parking lot to be de minimis?
Yes.
And while it's understandable that 24 feet may be appropriate for a larger lot,
For a larger lot, 24 feet is probably more appropriate, but since it's a smaller lot and 6 spaces, we think that 20 feet will probably be sufficient.
and again, at the curb cut, it is
22 feet.
Do you think that your project will adversely affect the character of the neighborhood?
No.
Do you think it will improve the neighborhood?
Well, we think it'll substantially improve the neighborhood. We've heard that Bill's Tavern was kind of a nuisance bar. We're increasing the number of all-street parking spaces by 4. There's plenty of on-street parking on Thurlow and 3rd Street. We think that there's plenty of on-street parking to carry any overflow parking. The tavern did not provide any off-street parking, even when it operated as a tavern. As I mentioned before, the properties are located near the Highland train station, which may reduce the need for vehicle parking. Obviously, as we add residential units, we'll be increasing or adding to the property tax revenue to the city and school district. I don't know if you've ever seen our products or heard of the products that we're putting out there, but we don't put the absolute minimum finish. When we go into a property, we completely renovate the property. We remove waste lines, we remove all finishes, it's usually a complete renovation. And we usually put back finishes, mechanicals, electricals that are pretty much brand new. And the whole goal is to build these properties or reconstruct these properties for longevity. We hold everything, we self-manage. Our goal is to remain in the city for the long term.
And is there a high demand for housing units?
Absolutely.
You think these units will get leased quickly?
Pretty quick.
You've mentioned that you have done other renovation projects. Do you have a crew that you use?
Yeah, so we have a partnership with a general contractor, L&C General Contractors. They have about a crew of 15 personnel. And the way we run the crew is we have certain personnel dedicated to projects like this. We have certain personnel dedicated to maybe individual townhome renovations. And then we have some personnel dedicated to maintenance calls. So if a tenant calls, we usually respond within 24 hours or less. And we don't try to spread the crews too thin so that a project sits idle. If we have approval to do construction on a project, we usually kind of hit it running pretty quick.
So could I draw your attention to exhibit number F? Would you please describe these are before and after pictures of other city properties that you have renovated?
Yeah, so the 3 examples that we've showed in the exhibits are 1126, 1128 Curlin, 400 East 9th, and 2907 West 3rd. These are projects that we've probably completed over the past 2 to 3 years. And if you notice, they were in pretty bad shape. I remember Curlin, I would drive on 95 and kind of see Curlin. And then we eventually bought that property. It was in very bad shape. There was really no flooring in the property, the siding. And as you see, if you look at the before and after pictures of Curlin, you can see what it looked like before, and you can see what it looks like after.
And when you do a renovation, are you putting all new appliances, flooring?
Yep. New waistline, new mechanicals, new electrical.
You're not just slapping a coat of paint on?
We don't Band-Aid because we don't really know what was there. So we kind of demolish everything and rebuild everything as new. If you see 400 East 9th, I recall that building. I just remember that when I went to the building for the first time, you could kind of see the sky through the roof. We reconstructed that building. 6 units. Last but not least, we purchased and renovated 2907 West Third. And as you can see from some of the photos, some of the finishes that we put in the properties.
So you believe you do a good product and that you improve the housing stock of the city?
We believe we do, yes.
And that you eliminate blighted properties, is that accurate?
Correct.
That is the extent of our presentation. Be happy to answer questions or provide a summary.
No, we'll open it up to the board for questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
The addition you want to add, the third floor addition,
Yes.
you have a fire escape plan for that.
Yeah, so part of the fire escape plan is, first of all, it's 2 outrated walls. We have 2 forms of egress, although we fall under that 4 unit per floor threshold. So we're under 4 units per floor threshold. Even though we're below the threshold, we're still providing 2 forms of egress, a door and a window, okay? And the buildings that we are actually building now are fully sprinkled. So we have sprinklers in the units and in the common space.
So, and I'll just expand on that a little
Sure.
bit. The building code requires an external, like a fire escape, for example,
Yep.
if there are 4 or more units on a floor.
Correct,
And this is 3 units per floor.
correct.
But you will have and this again complies with the fire code, a window that is, that qualifies as an egress window, that
Correct.
that a person could get out with the assistance of a fire ladder or whatnot.
Correct.
And so it is code compliant for fire purposes.
It is code compliant, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. You done? I have a question. The commercial use of the building downstairs,
Yeah.
you never talked about that part of it.
Sure.
What is going on with that part? What is your goal for that?
Well, we don't want to put a bar back. We've speculated about potentially putting maybe a convenience store, a laundromat. We can even conceivably put another residential unit there.
Wouldn't it be your preference to do a
We
residential?
would rather put another residential unit, but we kept it in there because we thought the city may still want a commercial space there.
Because it's zoned, because that unit doesn't require zoning relief, it was your kind of assumption that that was more in the spirit of the ordinance to leave that
Yeah, we
commercial
wanted to
unit?
leave it because we wanted to have, we just didn't want to create a bunch of units. We wanted to leave it as an option to put commercial space there. It's 800 square feet. If we could put a residential unit there and everyone's okay with that, we could put a pretty nice 800 square foot unit there. So we're open to it. We're obviously not going to put anything there that's not in compliance with
The permitted use.
permitted use.
The reason I'm asking that is because if you're saying that you want a relief for parking, that you have 6 off-street parking, when you're supposed to have 13. Now you're saying you have a commercial area also that's gonna need parking also. Where do we stand because of, you're saying you need 13, you're asking for the relief for that,
Sure.
so they be parking on the street. And also now you're saying, because you have the the commercial part, you're gonna need parking for that also. So that's a whole lot of relief that you're asking for.
It is. The requirement's 13 as it stands now, per the ordinance. And we try to put as much parking as we can on these properties. Right now, the 2 garages are not being used for parking, so right now, as it stands now, as it was a bar and 2 residential units, as it stands now, there's 0 off-street parking. We're proposing we put the 6 off-street parking spots and utilize any of that on-street parking as it's been in the past, when it was Bill's Tavern.
Another question real fast. Hold on.
Sure.
Yeah, no worries.
So if you don't do the addition on the 3rd floor,
Uh-huh.
you would have, can you continue to operate with not having a 3rd floor and you still have enough parking? You should still have enough parking for your 6 for the 1st and the 2nd floor. Do you have to have the 3rd floor?
I mean, we're proposing we do it because it still falls below the restriction, the 65 feet restriction. We've built a third floor on another building on that block, and I mean, it by far is less than the 65-foot, 5-story limit. So that's why we're proposing to put a third story there, so it's kind of consistent with the other building that we built.
Right, but the height question isn't about the height limitation. It's
Sure.
about adding another floor of density that increases your variance, right?
Sure.
It increases the variance as the park.
Right.
But it is permitted under all the Vulcan area requirements. So,
It's just a lot more multifamily density than the
It
LIC
is-
contemplates by,
it's
by a
par-
factor
it's
of all of
parking-
it.
It's a parking.
Yeah, okay.
It is, yeah, we can't deny that that's why we're needing parking.
It is more units. There is a high demand for these things. I mean, we're getting calls constantly for units. And it's not like we're vetting tenants, we're providing good housing for people. It's ample space, it's good, good living conditions.
So the up to 20 on-street parking spaces that you propose or you feel are available,
Yeah.
are they the ones, are you including space that is not adjacent to your property?
No.
Okay,
I
so,
mean, I think we can get an excess of 20. I'm being, I think, conservative with 20. And my 20 number is coming from on-street parking on Thurlow and Third,
adjacent to your property or
Yeah.
across from your property?
adjacent to the property.
Okay, so along your property from Third down Thurlow, you're anticipating that you could get 13 on that space, and then another 7 in front of your building?
I believe so. Again, I didn't measure it precisely, okay, but I think we can get more. We kind of had a discussion about it yesterday. I think you can get 25, but I don't want to just come in here and say 25. I'd rather say somewhere around 20.
So down the length of the entire
Yeah,
block,
yeah,
from
yeah,
Third
yeah.
down
And when
Thurlow?
I say 20, I don't mean the whole length of Third Street, both sides.
Yeah.
I mean in front of our property
Mhm.
and down Thurlow,
Okay,
okay?
okay, okay.
Does Thurlow generally have on-street parking?
Yeah, there's very ample parking there.
But is it generally filled up?
No, it's not.
The other question I had was, we have, for your, if we're thinking about the amount of traffic that there might be for construction and maintenance, where would those trucks need to be, or that equipment need to be during your construction and in your subsequent maintenance? Will we be including that into the 13, or are you thinking that, especially with the idea of a commercial space, that when you think about a commercial space and loading and unloading, where do you propose that goes? Would that be in front of the former tavern or on the side of the, when you think about that, if you
Yep.
get somebody in there, then
Yep.
where would that commercial
Good question,
parking
good
go?
question. So I'll address it in two different ways. During construction, usually what we do is we fence off that whole section, and we contain everything in that fence. And there's two examples of that we're doing now, 2907 West Third, which you can see, and 364 Lamoga. It's pretty contained. If we have deliveries, we usually do it that day. It's usually, on-demand deliveries. There's really no disturbance on outside of that fence, and it's not like we park a bunch of trucks. It's usually contained within the area.
On the property.
Correct,
So in this instance, it would be where the garage is now,
pretty much.
in the proposed parking
Yes.
lot, okay?
So if you look at 2907 West Third, we renovated that property, okay? That was a vacant social club for many years. So we came in, we bought it, we renovated it. It's it's a multi-unit, and any truck, traffic, staging area, or demolition area was always in the back of that building. And it was a fence and a screen. And we would pull trucks in, close it, pull trucks out. So not many people would know. In terms of loading area, I guess it would depend on what it is. okay? If it's a laundromat, I'm not sure how much loading you would have. I know you would have significantly less loading than if it was Bill's Tavern. But again, we're not sure what that commercial space could be. But I don't anticipate it being any more of a loading demand than it was at Bill's Tavern.
Other board questions?
Yeah. Seem like you really, with the city. When you bought this property, did you, with these ideals, knowing you need all these variants, did you include us in this plan? Like, did you talk to anyone before? It seems like this is what you do, this is your plan, and you knew you needed all these variants before you purchased. Did you, like, kind of test the waters and see, where this was going at?
Well, we thought about it. We, you know, a lot of times, you know, you could get properties and you could buy them on contingency and you could do all that. We bought a series of properties over, I would say, the past 7 years now. We're going on year 8 now doing this, that we have experience in the city. We take a risk. I mean, we're taking a risk with this, and we take it with the intention of being here long-term. Again, we buy the properties, and a lot of them, in fact, mostly all of them are non-performing properties. They're either abandoned, on the abandoned list, or not producing any tax revenue at all. We'll go in and we'll completely renovate the property, and we'll do it at risk. And we are taking that chance, and we're taking that chance with the intent to be here long-term. We haven't sold one property in the city. So we buy it, we fix it, we renovate it, we keep it. And we're extremely responsible landlords. We try to be very responsive to tenants. I've said it before, zoning hearings in the past, we are absolutely not slumlords. So we kind of focus on that. But to answer your question, some of these properties we buy at risk. We do.
So what is the risk to this board if we grant these variants? And it seems like this is what you do. When, like, what's gonna stop you from taking more risks and putting us back here in this position again with parking or these other variants?
These are great questions. I mean, it's a very good question. You know, we do take risks, and there are variances related to parking and other city ordinances, but at the end of the day, we're taking properties that are just non-performing assets. 2907 West 3rd was an old, I think, Polish-American social club. I mean, that thing sat there forever. And we went in, and now it's, we're going to be leasing that up. And that will be producing tax revenue. So despite the variances on parking and maybe variances on other aspects of the units, we are providing units in excess of 500 square feet, good finishes, good mechanical systems. They're good units. And if, you know, don't take my word, I would go take a look at them if you can. But at the end of the day, we are meeting the demand, and there is a significant demand in the city for housing. We are meeting the demand, and we are basically producing tax revenue.
Basically, I can form this in a question, like how, if you continue, you're changing, eventually we'll be changing zoning ordinance just for your company on the demand, on your risks.
I would just point out, every time the zoning hearing board can hear each application without having, each of them is a new and separate application. You always have the ability to say you like this one, you don't like that one. This is not precedential. We have been before the zoning hearing board, I think on 3 separate occasions.
3, yes.
It's almost always been about parking. The parking requirements of the city ordinance are kind of aggressive for a build-out city. This is, you know, these are streets with, these are properties that don't permit, there's just not much footprint to provide off-street parking. We have received that relief from the zoning hearing board before. There is no obligation that you give it, and if you do today, it doesn't mean you have to in the future. On the use variance we're requesting, this block, I would assert, shouldn't be zoned light industrial. It is not. There is, near this property, there is a light industrial district. This particular block, it would be detrimental to that block to only require light industrial uses. It would be unfair to the residents who live there.
That's above my pay grade.
And that's why you're allowed to give variances. That's why we're allowed to apply, and that's why you're allowed to decide.
I do have one additional question. For the egress for the parking lot, is there a physical barrier that prevents you from expanding that egress for the parking, the space for the park from 22 to 24 feet?
I think that's a hard limitation. I mean, we beat this up with my architect. We beat everything up with the architect. We try to see as much as we can. But from what I heard from him, to the 20-foot number is the number, and 6 spaces is the amount. I'm always trying to get more spaces in there. And
Not the spaces, but the egress, so
The
on your,
the curb cut,
on the curb
I
cut,
think
the
the
curb
curb
cut
cut-
is at 22.
yeah, I think that curb cut could go to 24.
The
That's-
requirement is 24.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's not gonna change the aisle width once you
Mhm.
pull in, but you could widen that curb cut.
Okay.
I have,
Sounds good. You? You have a question?
Will that be something that the architect can provide to make sure that that's?
You could make that a condition, and we'd have to then prove it to the city when you apply
Right.
for a building permit.
I have one more question.
Sure.
You brought up 2907 West Third Street.
Yeah,
You said you went through zoning for that,
yeah.
for a relief for parking for that. And you're asking for the same exact things for 2 buildings over for the same relief that they gave you for that one, for the parking, exactly. Do you not think it's gonna be an overflow of, because you have 2 buildings that you asking for relief for parking, where's these other people gonna park if you already asked for the relief for 2 buildings basically next to each other?
I don't know how many spots you got at 2907 West Third. 11? Okay, so we have 11 spots at 2907 West Third. And we have 6 spots, or we're proposing 6 spots at 2901. I would think that all the overflow parking would go on Thurlow and Third. Right now, there's not much parking on those streets. We don't really see much parking. And even when Bill's Tavern operated as a bar, the demand on parking as an operating bar, we think is in excess of what it would be if it was residential units.
And is there a church still on the corner of that?
Mhm.
There
On the
is to
opposite-
the,
on the
The opposite block.
to the north, yeah, the other side of Thurlow,
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a
would that-
corner, there's a
Would that
corner.
affect parking as well? Members coming in and out of the church?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
It is Jason right there. Same, yeah. All right, let's go.
Okay. Any other question? All right, is there anything else you have to present, Mr. Scott?
No, if you, we just reiterate, if you wanted to eliminate the commercial use unit and allow it to be residential, we'd love that, but, and I honestly think it would be more, would potentially eliminate a potential parking issue in the neighborhood. But I just would conclude with saying that, this applicant has a proven record of, turning blighted properties into decent housing stock, really improving the housing stock of the city. This building previously housed a nuisance bar. We assert this is going to be a much more amenable use for the city than the prior use. And that commercial, that we are grandfathered as to needing to provide parking for the commercial use or a loading dock because they were not there with the prior commercial use. And while it's undeniable we need parking relief, we are providing as much as we can, and there is plenty of on-street parking available on Thurlow at this time. And finally, the use. I just really need to emphasize, this industrial uses at this property, an apartment is going to be consistent with the character of the neighborhood. An industrial use which is required is not. It's just, I think that's an easy one myself.
You mentioned the parking requirements for the commercial space and the loading requirements for the commercial space a couple times. the current commercial use is a bar, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware under the code if the parking or loading requirements are different for a bar versus a general commercial space?
I don't know off the top of my
Mr. Fritz, do you know if there's a difference? Okay. If that's all from the applicant, is there any public comment on this application? Okay, we have two. If you guys don't mind seating the podium. Ma'am, do you want to come up first to the podium? So we'll need you to state your name. We're going to have you sworn in first, okay?
Good morning. I'm Councilwoman Portia West, and I just have a question about the parking on Thurlow Street, because I know for a fact that from the alleyway down to 291, you're at 3rd, and then there's the alleyway, and then there's residential there between the alleyway and 291. And there are people who utilize those parking spaces. Former Commissioner Jimmy Johnson is there, and then there are about maybe 3 other houses on his side of the street and 4 or 5 across the street. So, you know, I'm wondering if the parking from your building, your residents, I think it's going to have an impact on those residents there.
And this is beyond Thurlow? Being beyond Third Street?
It's, yeah, it's, yeah, it's Third Street, then Mary.
Hold on,
and
I'm
then-
sorry. Can everybody, only one person
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
speak at a time, just so the court reporter isn't
I'm sorry.
struggling.
Mary, well, Thurlow between Mary and 291. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there are several houses there, you know. And the reason I'm stating my concern, I appreciate what you're doing in terms of giving us nice housing here in Chester. Don't think I'm not grateful for that, because we have a lot of people who are looking for places to stay. You're right, there's a shortage here in Chester. But then for the residents who have been there, paying their taxes, and, you know, we don't want to cause any type of logistical problems for them. So that's my concern.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you want to come forward? So if you can state your name, then we'll swear you in.
My name is Anthony Rufo.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Anthony Rufo? This one? Or this one?
Either
Hi,
way.
Anthony Rufo?
R-U-F-F-O?
One F.
R-U-F-O, okay.
Yes.
Can we have Mr. Rufo sworn in, please?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
I own at least 50, possibly closer to 100 houses in Chester. And so I have my interest in this. I'm here for something else, but my interest in this matter is the same as yours, where I'm just kind of generally concerned. We're long-term holding buys. We just buy single family. And I'm really concerned about the well-being of Chester. So my interest is the same as yours in this. I don't know these people at all. But I will say that when it comes to parking, when I go through the neighborhoods, and I try and buy houses in Chester, in the better parts of Chester, and stay away from the parts I don't like. And one of the things that I use to gauge that is there people around? Is there traffic? Do I feel safe here on this block or that block? You know, and I would say that, you know, when you talk about parking and people coming and going and things like that, I think the bigger risk in Chester is, for me, when I live in Havertown, when I'm here, I feel much safer when there's more people and there's people parking and living. You know, when I'm on a street where it's like, oh, there's people here, I feel really good. When I'm on a street, it's like, I see like that bar that's like closed down for years, or some of the other projects that he's talking about. I don't know who these guys are, but the stuff they're doing is really good for the city, in my opinion, because that's when I don't feel good when I see, you know, a place that's empty and abandoned. I like what they're doing. They're going to be brand new units, and there is demand. Right? That's why we're here, and I just think I don't know exactly as much about the neighborhood as you guys do. All I'm saying, I'm just trying to share an outsider's viewpoint who has the same interests as you. I think this is good. I think this is a really good thing for the city, and I'm kind of excited that somebody's doing this. We don't take risks like they're We buy one house, and we rent it, and we buy another one. You know what I mean? We get a good tenant, and we like it, and we buy another one at a time. We try and pick good neighborhoods. What they're doing is actually more dramatic. They're changing the neighborhood for the better. They're taking areas that are kind of, you know, in some cases blighted. In this case, maybe not so blighted, but not great either. And they're making them like active, which I think overall is a really good thing. I'm not telling you guys which way to do. I would just say, when I think about parking, you seem to be talking about parking and that being the concern. For me, it's like, you know, what's worse than too many people parking? Nobody parking. You know what I mean? Like, I like that, and I think the commercial use is probably what's tipping the scales here, why he's short. And I don't think that's not gonna be a bar again. I don't think that's happening. You know what I mean? It's probably gonna be something, you know, not that busy. In a perfect world, probably would be residential. That's just my 2 cents, that's what I wanted to share, because I was sitting here watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public?
Yes, I have something, a statement. As a resident, when you come by these homes and you think and you beautify the neighborhood, the anxiety of someone that lives there, because I can live in my tax bracket, but I prefer to live where I live, on the corner of Potter and Rose. And when you come and do these recycle and you say, I don't feel safe, but the people that already live there, even though it's 1 or 2 people, we have to take in consideration that, because that's anxiety of your tenants. We don't know who's coming or who's going there. So I just wanted to give you the other hand when you buying the houses and you coming. I just wanted you to understand with the tenant, with the homeowner that already lives there, their anxiety. So I understand we all mean well. I mean, it has to coexist, but you, in the future, take in consideration the anxiety of the people that you said there's only 1 or 2 people there, but that 1 or 2 matter, because they've been holding that neighborhood down for a while. That's a statement. It's not a question. I'm done.
Right. Is there any other public comment? All right. Does the board want to recess into executive session?
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so small. What is up? I need to ask like the building person. Because in the last city council meeting. I need to ask the building people,
You all right?
why is it so small? What is?
I think because they have to fit 6 up or 7 up here. Or they don't raise and lower.
We can figure it out
I didn't notice
offline. 'Cause you're sitting there.
because of where I sit. This way, no, Mike, right?
We'll figure it out offline.
All right, so we're, sure.
Hearing back in session.
And I will note for the record that the board did meet in executive session just now and also met in executive session prior to the start of the hearing, discuss questions of law and receive legal advice. At this point, the board is electing to continue application number 8-24 until the February 19th hearing date to allow the applicant to submit clarifying information both on the required parking under the code and applicable laws, as well as submit a revised plan representing their desire to not include a commercial space on the first floor for consideration by the board. This will be renoticed in accordance with standard public notice procedures and the requirements of the ordinance, and we'll resume this on the 19th of February. Okay? Thank you. Our next application is is number 9-24 of Union Proco for 426 20th Street, parcel ID number 4901003530 in the R2 medium-low density residential district, requesting the following: a variance from section 1325.01 to permit conversion of an existing one-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling in a building that includes includes 2,111 square feet of heated habitable indoor floor area. We're limited to a building that includes more than 3,000 square feet of heated habitable indoor floor area. A variance from section 1347.02A 17B1 to permit two front entrances where a building is required to maintain the appearance of a one-family dwelling with a single front entrance. And a variance from section 1357.01 to permit no off-street parking spaces where 3 are required. We'll also note for the record that the application does read 426 20th Street, but the legal address of this property, which is reflected by the parcel ID number, is 426 East 20th Street, based on city and county records. Is the applicant here? Okay.
Good morning. I'm Todd Wimmelsdorf. I'm the applicant, and I'm here with one of the partners.
And Todd, what's your relation to Union Proco?
I work as their designer on some smaller projects and as the applicant for zoning building submissions.
So you're a consultant for Union Proco. Is Mr. Rufo, are you? You're the owner of Union Proco?
Yes.
Or, okay. Is there anybody requesting party status for this application? Ma'am, can you come forward, please? Do you mind sharing the microphone?
My name is Arlene Gathers. I'm at 428 East 20th Street.
So you're directly next door?
Yes.
And
It's Gathers, spelled like feathers, but with a G. Geathers.
And you're directly next door at 428 East 20th?
Yes.
I would recommend to the board that we grant Ms. Gathers party status. Is there any objection?
No.
Do you have to be present for that to be granted? Well,
Yes.
okay. Because my neighbor gave me a letter to give. I guess that's at public comment to give. She couldn't make it. She had to go work. Okay. I'm actually at work too, kind of.
All right. Well, I'll let you know how you can participate as we go through this. So Ms. Gathers is a party. The board will enter the following exhibits. ZHB1 will be the application packet. ZHB2 will be the proof of publication. ZHB3 will be the affidavit of posting, and ZHB4 will be the affidavit of mailing. Your name again, I'm sorry.
It's Todd Wimmelsdorf.
Woolsdorf. Mr. Woolsdorf, if authorized by Mr. Rufo, you can proceed with the presentation.
Yeah,
Before we begin, would we be able to do the next item as well, since there's only the one variance that's different between the two of them?
No, we'll need to do them separately since they're separate properties.
Okay. Yeah, so we're just seeking relief to install an additional apartment in the structure. They want to limit the work to an interior renovation and a refresh of the exterior. So they want to limit the work to the interior of the building and a refresh of the exterior, and to keep with the character of the neighborhood. There is also a shared garage at the back that allows for one parking space and then I'm not sure how the arrangement works with the shared driveway. But I
Sorry,
don't know
what was your question
Is that a question?
about the shared driveway?
how that arrangement works in regards to the off-street parking. Because there is one spot in the garage.
So you're currently requesting a variance for 0 off-street parking spaces where 3 are required.
Yeah, but there
So
is,
you're also saying there is, in addition, there's a garage parking space?
yeah, that's existing there. And we're not proposing any change to the footprint of the structure, just the interior.
And so you're proposing a 2-family dwelling in a 2,111 square foot building, correct?
Correct.
What are the sizes of the units proposed?
1 second. So the first floor unit would be 979 square feet, and the bi-level unit would be 1,132.
And can you address how you're accomplishing maintaining the appearance of 1-family dwelling when adding 2 front entrances to the building?
We were doing that to limit, well, we wanted to avoid having a rear, fire stair entrance. Just trying to limit the level of work at the property.
Understood, but you're asking for 2 front entrances, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the code has a requirement that a building that's converted to 2-family dwelling maintains the appearance of a 1-family dwelling. So you're just asking to
Well, we would,
bypass that altogether? Is there any proposed mitigation to make it appear as a 1-family dwelling still?
yeah, in speaking to Tony, we also would be able to just utilize a vestibule and then have the 2 entrances on the interior.
So that was my question. So is there an accommodation for that proposal in the plan that you submitted already?
No, there isn't, but we could, if it were to be approved, then when we went for the building permits, those plans would have just the single front entrance.
accommodation
Yeah,
for the single entrance with the vestibule somehow blocked off, so the 2 separate entrances in the hallway. Okay.
correct.
So in the plans you shared with us, there's 1 door that leads directly into the stairwell and 1 door that leads into a vestibule for the 1 unit, correct?
Correct.
So to accomplish the vestibule design, which one is the existing door, I guess I should ask first?
It's the one on the right.
So not the one with the stairs?
Correct.
Okay.
Currently, the stairs come down, hit a landing, and then turn to the left into the living room.
Okay.
So where would the vestibule be placed if it was a single entrance?
I imagine it would most likely make use of the existing front door on the right.
And then how would the second unit get to the stairs?
They would have to come in and then turn to the left across the front of the living room.
So the front of the house would become a vestibule?
Correct.
Is the property currently being used as a single-family home?
Yeah, at the time of sale, it was a single family. It was in disrepair. There was one, I guess, the son of the owners lived there. Yeah, it was not in great condition.
And what is the justification for having this go from a single-family dwelling to a 2-family dwelling?
Tony, can you speak to that?
We just feel like that's what the market would want. So we can give more affordable housing if we make it 2 bedrooms. And there's more demand at that number. They would be like $1,100 a piece. Versus like we could turn the whole thing into a 5-bedroom. We would have to do Section 8. And it'd probably be close to the same rent, but we just felt that we'd rather go with the self-pay and go with the 2 units that are lower in cost each. So we thought it was a win for the community and us, but it's close.
So-
For us, it's close to the same. We just thought two-bedroom units would be better with self-pay. So that kind of more addresses the demand, of what the community wants. When we put 2-bedroom units up, we get a lot of calls right away. And a 5-bedroom, it's not that much, it's usually gonna have to be a Section 8. So we just thought it was a better use of the property.
So with the proposed change, conversion from the 2 doors to the 1 door, you're proposing that that's not going to change the required floor plan for the first floor apartment? That there would just be the space being deducted from the living room space in the first floor apartment?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. And you have the garage on the space now. Are you proposing to renovate the garage and use it as a parking space, or what are you proposing with the garage?
That's the current plan.
That you're going to continue to use it as a garage for
Yes.
covered parking?
Yeah.
Okay. And the space that's located behind the building right now, I don't see any dimensions for that. Do you have dimensions for the space behind the building?
I know that we're fitting the minimum parking space in there by the city ordinance, but I don't know that
I didn't hear
dimension
you,
off.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, so the existing parking space that's in there meets the ordinance from the city, but I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Okay. Are you able to create parking in that rear yard space to accommodate the parking that's required for the building?
I don't believe we would if the garage is to remain. There's just not enough clearance between the rear of the building and that garage.
Okay. Does anybody have any additional questions?
One thing, did you finish your testimony over here? Everything you had to say, give me the opportunity to finish everything you had to say.
On my part, speaking to the building, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say, Tom?
I just thought it was a better idea. I thought I said everything. Yeah.
So any other board questions? All right, is there any public we have Ms. Gethers, I'm sorry. Can you come forward? Do you have questions for either of these gentlemen?
Yes. So,
So if you can
I
just
think
make
I'm
sure you
sorry.
lower the microphone.
I think you may have addressed one of my concerns, which was the single entrance, still keeping the image of a single-family home. So if I'm understanding, that's not going to happen, if I'm understanding what was said. Well, you have to vote on that, but
we did get some clarity that
you got
it
some
is
clarity
possible.
on that. And then the other concern we had was the request for no off-street parking spaces where 3 were required. So I just wanted clarity on that. Does that mean that no one can park in front of that except for the tenants for that? I'm not sure what that
No,
means.
ma'am, no, ma'am.
Okay.
What that means is when you are proposing a multifamily property that you also are required to offer off-street parking, which is non-street parking.
Right.
So the request is that be waived. So it'll be our decision to decide how the landowner is going to be able to make that accommodation, if any.
Okay.
But it does not restrict your ability to park on your residential street.
Okay. Because I was a little I was just concerned about the
Sure.
parking with the school right down the street, and
I
then
have a question.
the activity around the corner with
Yeah.
that building as well, and then with the daycare at the 2 doors
Viable
down.
question.
There's quite a bit of
Traffic.
traffic going through there.
Viable question, for sure.
Okay. And then, I'm not sure what to do with it. This was a letter from my neighbor. I didn't open it. I told her I was coming to the hearing because she got the same letter I did. And she said if you can drop off this letter to express her concerns as well. So I just wanted to give this
We'll
to
receive that.
whom?
So we'll take it as public comment. The board can review it.
Thank you.
And, I think those were my concerns.
Those were your 2 concerns?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any questions for the applicant? Are you,
It's just my understanding that you want to convert the house into 2 apartments. And the house next door to that is an apartment as well. I'm just, my concern is, again, the parking as well as bringing in tenants. It's always a challenge when you bring in tenants to a new community, to the community. So hopefully your vetting process is legit.
Do you have any additional questions about the vetting process? Anything that you feel like they need to answer for you
Oh,
today to feel comfortable?
so what is your vetting process?
We have an application process that looks at credit score, any collections on there, criminal history, and income. And we judge basically those four things. And, right now in Delaware County, we're getting a lot of good apps, so the demand's really high. So if we get like 20 apps, we'll put it down to the last 5, and like 3 of us will kind of kick it back and forth and decide which one's the best.
How many bedrooms will
Each one will have 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
Yeah. 2.
I was asking how many bedrooms would each unit have?
2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why we thought it was a good idea, is we really feel like the 2-bedroom units is where the demand is in the market, and we just feel like we'll get the best apps that way.
What about the other 2 bedrooms in the upper unit? It
Sorry.
shows 4.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different in that the first floor unit has 1 bedroom, and then the upstairs has 4 bedrooms.
Oh, I'm talking about the other app.
Yeah. Yeah, this house is a little bit bigger than the next application.
Do you want to, anything you need to change based on that?
I was talking about the wrong house. Yeah, this one is going to be 4, because it's a giant house, and, it's probably more economical to have 2 tenants in there, especially for the tenants, than one person renting the entire house. So we went with 1 bedroom on the first floor, and there's 4 bedrooms on the second.
So does that change your statement previously about the demand being a 2-bedroom?
The demand is always more for smaller units. It's always, it's always better to go with the smaller units than the larger units, because it just puts too much pressure on the rent. Like, the rent would be, for either one of the houses, the rent would be over $2,000 if it's just one house, and it's just too much. And the only way to do that would be Section 8 program, because no one really can pay over $2,000 in the market.
I think that statement is relative.
Yeah.
Because there's no way for us to know who would be able to afford $2,000 in rent.
Yeah.
So it's
I shouldn't use the word no one. I shouldn't use the word no one. It's just we don't get.
You haven't received applications that can support that type of rent? Is that what
Yeah.
you are trying to
Yeah,
explain to us?
Yes. We have
Okay.
600 units in Delaware County, and when we put the smaller ones up, that's when we get a lot of apps. When we put the ones up,
And that's what's fueling your.
yes, when we put them up
bonus
too
here.
high, then it's like crickets. Nobody
So
wants to.
my question, I hear
Yeah.
you. I just want to be clear, because if that's the concern, to have smaller units, and now this unit, we're clearly looking at 4 bedrooms.
Yes.
So is that considered, because now that's a larger unit, so do you feel like, because you're proposing a larger unit now, that you will not get viable clients?
No, we will, because the rent will still be low. Even though it's 4 bedrooms, it's the second floor, it's still only 1,100 square feet. So
Okay.
it's half the size of it would be if we left it one house. So it's still a lot. It's about the amount of rent that you have to pay. So even one's 4 bedrooms and one bedroom, they're both close to 1,000 square feet. So the 4-bedroom one isn't going to be that much more than the 1 bedroom, because they're not getting much more. There's just more walls. You see what I'm saying? So you pay, rent's mostly based on square footage.
Well,
So 4 bedrooms, I don't even know how we did that.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I have to
I'm
look at
looking
that.
it.
But you have to excuse me, I wasn't the partner who was supposed to come today. My partner went
That's
away
okay.
on a trip, so I should have prepared more. But, yeah, the 4 bedroom's still gonna be way cheaper than if we had to rent the whole house. It'd be twice as much.
Again, rent is relative.
Yes.
The amounts of rent and the affordability is relative.
Yeah.
I think that the concern that we have is that in your initial argument, it was that 2 bedrooms were viable, more feasible, and now this is a 4-bedroom.
Yeah.
So is it less feasible? You're saying no because the rent is gonna be the same, which,
I think I could clarify the situation better by saying the square footage of about 1,000 square feet is the sweet spot. And that's, the 1,000 square feet is what's more feasible. So 2 1,000 square feet, one's a little below, one's a little above, are much more affordable than a 2,000 square foot house.
and your square footage for each of these bedrooms?
I'm
It's
sure
within
I'm
code.
sure it's by code if that's what they drew. Yeah.
So
Question?
I'm sorry. do you
Go
want
ahead.
me to speak to
Yep.
that? So the largest bedroom is 249 square feet,
Yeah.
and the smallest one's 121 square feet.
Got it. Thank you.
And that small one's an existing bedroom.
I think our neighbor, maybe, do you have additional questions with this new information?
I just want to express a concern. So when you said 2 bedrooms, in my mind, my house structure is the same as yours. So in my mind, I was like, I say 2 bedrooms, maybe 3 people, 4 people tops. But if you have a 4-bedroom, you're at least talking 6 people, potentially, plus another person downstairs. And if those people have cars, if they're young adults or family with young adult drivers, that's a whole different ballgame as opposed to 2-bedroom apartments. That's a different structure and a different applicant.
Anything further from the board?
Question. As we look on here, we don't see for the second, no exit for the second floor. Or for the first floor. I don't see no
Egress.
egress.
Well, by code, you can have the 3-story structure with just a single means of egress, and then all of the bedroom windows need to be, egress compliant. And then, because of the change in use, there'll be the fire separation in the hallways and the ceiling between the units, along with a sprinkler system would need to be installed.
The garage for your off-street, you said you had the garage back there, and you would make that into a parking for yourself, that you would have to make that into a parking. Would the garage stay, or you would tear the garage down, or they could pull inside the garage?
No,
How the garage is?
so the garage would remain, and then they would be able to pull in and out to make use of the space.
I guess who would?
Yeah.
I guess we'd have to, whoever takes the property first, the first unit, or I don't know how you would determine that.
Because right now there's a shared,
Just a
shared
second.
driveway.
Correct.
Okay. All righty.
You have a question?
So you understand the structure of the driveway, the garage itself. It's shared, but it's not 2 buildings. Like, it's one roof, and the wall inside doesn't even go all the way up to the roof. It's probably like 3 feet from the roof, and then so you literally can toss stuff back and forth if you could. But I just wanted you to understand that, so that the tenant understands, whoever comes in there, that they literally have to go over and pull into that
They have to be
garage.
fully in the space.
Yes.
In order to allow access for the neighbor.
Yes,
For
and-
your car.
Yes, and any consideration of tearing down their portion will change the structure of the
entire
garage.
piece. Yeah.
Yes.
Any other board questions?
No? Any questions?
All right.
Nope.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Anything else?
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Okay. There's no one else here, right? I can. So we'll just note for the record that there's no public comment on this application. Is the board ready to make a decision, or do you want to recess into?
We need to recess for.
Okay. Actually, I do have one question. Is the applicant agreeing to withdraw the variance request for 2 front entrances, or would you still like the board to consider that?
We would withdraw that. That's just a small design thing.
Okay.
That's okay with the board? All right, we're going to recess into executive session.
Be back with you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
she be like this? We gotta get the building manager to figure these chairs out. I didn't see it. They didn't even back there?
Get bigger, that's all.
All right, Madam Chair, am I making the motion for the board here? That we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, so the board has asked me to put a motion forward on application number 9-24 for 426 East 20th. And the motion offered is to, double checking here, is to deny all requested relief. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So you will receive a written decision of that denial within 45 days of this hearing. We'll move now to application number 10-24 of Union Proco for 24 East Mallory Street, parcel ID number 4901-022-9900 in the R2 Medium Low Density Residential District, requesting the following. Variance from section 1325.01 to permit conversion of an existing one-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling. Oh, Ms. Geathers, I'm sorry. Pause 1 second on the record. Can I get your email address? What was your first name? E-E-N. G-E-A-T-H-E-R-S. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'll resume reading the notice. I believe we were at section 1325.01 to permit conversion of an existing one-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling in a building that includes 1,398 square feet of heated, habitable indoor floor area. We're limited to a building that includes more than 3,000 square feet of heated, habitable indoor floor area, and a variance from section 1357.01 to permit no off-street parking spaces where 3 are required. Is there anybody seeking party status for this application? Seeing none, the board will enter the following exhibits. ZHB 1 will be the application packet. ZHB 2 will be proof of publication. ZHB 3 will be the affidavit of posting, and ZHB 4 will be the affidavit of mailing. We have the same applicant and representative as the previous application, and you'll remain sworn, and you can proceed with your presentation on 24 East Bowery.
So this is similar to the previous presentation in that it's an existing single-family dwelling that proposing to turn into a two-family unit. Each unit would have 2 bedrooms, with the first floor unit being 749 square feet and the second floor being 649 square feet. Again, the renovation would be limited to the interior with just a minor work on the exterior for maintenance and just to get it looking nice again, and in the addition of an exterior door. Here, there is no off-street parking, but the lot next door is vacant. So not too much work proposed here.
Do you have control of the vacant lot next door?
I don't believe so. I don't know, is that an easement there, or is it?
It's actually a lot.
Oh, okay.
It's right next to it, and that's grass, yes.
So you don't own that lot, correct?
No.
Okay. Questions from the board?
And there aren't any plans to expand the space to accommodate the 3,000 square foot requirement?
No, there's not at this
Okay.
time.
The entrance, I'm sorry.
Oh, go on.
The entrance, to get into, as your plans are, it would change the frontal of it
Mhm.
because of 2 doors.
Correct.
There's no other way to get into it without changing that, right?
Yeah, the only way would be around the rear, and I don't think that would be, yeah, I don't think that's quite wide enough for it to, you know, be adequate for the tenants.
So in this proposal, is it to add a door to the currently enclosed porch?
Correct. There's a door on the right-hand side, but then we're adding an interior door as well.
Behind the bush?
Yeah, on the left-hand side.
So, actually, can I ask just the zoning office a question? We did not notice for the appearance of a single-family dwelling for this one. Is that,
Say that again? I think partly that was done because the existing door, or because the door that we added is on the side, it's not facing the frontage, but whichever door.
But is the plan to enter the downstairs, the first floor apartment, is that on the porch to the
Yeah,
existing
so the
door
first floor
that's on the
apartment will
porch?
Go in through the porch, that's correct.
So there's an existing door on the porch that they would then use as the entrance to the first bedroom, first floor apartment. It's behind the bush on the picture, you can't see it.
So the second floor tenant will
So-
enter, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I thought that had been a window, but that door would just be modified for the new entrance door.
so just so I'm sure, if we're looking at your plan, that was, their floor plan that was presented, the door that faces the street, that's basically in the L, that enters into the hall and stairs and goes up to the second floor,
Yes,
is that the existing door?
there's an existing door there, but that opening would just be modified slightly for,
But that's the existing entrance to the building.
correct.
The door to the right of that goes into what's labeled living room, which is the one-story portion, does that door exist now?
There is a door there, but it's currently just for the enclosed porch.
So you're actually not adding any doors to this, you're just modifying the
Correct.
existing doors?
Yeah,
Got it.
should've.
That clarifies, thank you.
So the indoor porch, you're making that to a living room now.
Correct.
This right here.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's an enclosed porch, but it would just be modified so that it's more living space.
Is that that's on the slab?
Yes.
Indoor porch is on the slab?
Yeah.
It is on a slab?
Yeah, there's no basement under there, if that's what you're.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I asked.
Yeah, there's no basement under that part of the house.
Okay, yeah, oh, I see. Yep, okay. And no plan for parking,
No, just other than the fact
just the
that
one?
the neighborhood seems like it's got plenty.
That's a state street.
Yeah, I've been in that, I'm very familiar with that neighborhood, and I don't know when, I've never seen it have plenty. I just never seen it. I'm very familiar with the neighborhood, and my concern is that with the addition of potentially 4 more residents to the house with the 4 bedrooms upstairs.
Oh, this is 2 and 2.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
this
this
is the 2 and 2.
Yeah,
My
this
is-
my apologies, my apologies, my apologies. But there would be a potential of, well, there's a need for 3, and we have 1.
So there's no current off-street parking, right?
Correct.
None.
So there's no driveway, no alley access, nothing at this location?
Just have the lot next door and the cross street.
Well, we can't depend on the lot next door because you don't own it. And your tenants can't park there because they don't own it either. But, so as an existing single-family dwelling, they're required to have two off-street parking spots. So you're looking for a difference of an additional 2
2.
for a 2-bedroom apartment?
So, if you have, for 2 bedroom, you want an additional 2, and you also have the 1 bedroom.
This is a 2 and 2,
Two,
isn't
two,
it?
two and
Those
two.
three you need.
Or at least three.
So 3 is a need.
There's three you need. There's one.
We just need
each
one
need
additional.
One and a half. Upstairs and one and a half.
For two dwelling units, they need 3 total?
Per unit.
You have any ability to add an additional parking spot anywhere on the property?
We don't. We don't have a driveway or anything like that. You know, our thought when we came here was, we saw these duplexes all over the city. We bought some of them in the past, and we just thought that it was something that the city liked, because we saw so many of them. So we just assumed this was a good thing. And so it would also motivate us to, you know, buy more houses and renovate them. You know what I mean? If this is something that we can do. If it's not, then it's not. But that was the thinking behind it. I know we're supposed to have some sort of burden or something like that. You know, I don't know that we have that. You know, we just, to be totally honest, and we don't have a plan for the parking other than, I kind of thought the neighborhood had a lot, especially with the lot next door. I thought it had enough. So that was the thinking with the 2 applications. Because we see them all over. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have granted those. I have no idea what was. In one case, it was right next door. So we see them, so we just figured, oh, well, how do we do it? It's like, oh, you gotta go down and go in front of the count, and you get planning commission or the zoning commission, and you ask for it. So that's what we're doing.
It's quite possible we didn't approve the other ones.
Yeah, that's true too. No, I mean, that's true too. Like, I know. Look, I'm just, I'm just
Understood.
giving you a straight shot here. We
Understood.
see them all over. We just figure, how do we do it? And
Yep.
so that's why we're here.
So can we
If you're not into it, we understand.
Other questions from the board?
None.
Okay. We'll note for the record that there is no public to make public comment on this application. Is the board ready to make a motion?
We are.
I'm not aware of what it is, so if someone wants to make the motion as to what we're doing on this application.
I make a motion that we deny the request for variances for this property.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. You receive a written decision within 45 days.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you very
A
much.
good one. There's no further business before the board today. Is there anything the zoning hearing board needs to bring up? Okay, a motion for adjournment is appropriate.
motion adjourned.
Any opposed?
None.
There we go.
What you want?
I like this drink.
Yeah.
I can have it.
I'm gonna bring you some next time.
No,
Adam.
oh, that's crazy.
I'll get you some
Yeah,
more.
little stuff like that.